Parliamentarians in Mali are calling for early elections as the war against the Islamist fighters gains momentum. Interim President Jankunda Traoré, for his part, proposed 31st of July this year as the date for the presidential ballot. But as we hear in the CFI report, certain opposition groups are in support of a National Reconciliation Commission.
Bamako is under strict military surveillance. Concerns about seeing armed Islamists at the capital are slowly disappearing.
We have no fears in Bamako. I was a little worried when the war started, but after Gao and Timbuktu were taken, it's going to be better and better. Many people who had fled are returning home.
Although some Malians are still worried about a possible rebel attack in Bamako, French-led troops have taken over control of most of the north, and their military domination is paving the way for a political reawakening. At the beginning of the week, the parliament adopted a roadmap for the post-war period. A top priority will be to consolidate the Malian army.
First, we have to bring our forces up to par, provide them with training, upgrade our military material. All this will take a lot of time and will depend on the state's means.
Another essential objective for the authorities in this transitional period is to organize elections as soon as possible. The President proposes the 31st of July for the vote. The deputies are in favor of a National Reconciliation Commission. Discussions will be held with certain armed groups like the National Movement for the Liberation of Azawad, but there are conditions.
If tomorrow the MLA says it's ready to be part of the Republic of Mali, if tomorrow they put down their weapons, if they give up the idea of Azawad, then no problem. The FDR will back all initiatives.
There is also the question of determining the fate of persons who physically attacked President Traoré several months ago. As for the political forces opposing the transition, they haven't said their last word yet.
Well, elsewhere in Armenia, speculations arrive that the presidential elections will not hold as scheduled. This comes after killings of the main opposition leader in the country's capital by an unknown gunman. And Cambodians have gathered for the funeral of their former king, who died at the age of 87. We have details of these and other stories in this World News Roundup.
In Mexico, an explosion at the headquarters of the Mexican state-run oil giant Pemex killed 25 people and injured over 100. The explosion extensively damaged 3 floors. Most of the 3,500 employees were evacuated. According to Mexico's Civil Protection Agency, an apparent accumulation of gas in the electrical supply room caused the explosion. In Armenia, an unknown attacker shot and wounded a prominent candidate in Armenia's presidential election. 63-year-old Paru Hirikian, the head of the Union for National Self-Determination, is one of Armenia's best-known opposition politicians. He was shot in the capital Yerevan as he was returning home. Officials say the presidential election could be postponed, but the delay has yet to be confirmed. A criminal investigation has been launched to find the gunman. Cambodia is paying its last respects to Norodom Sihanouk. A sea of mourners filled the streets of the capital Phnom Penh Friday for the funeral of former King Norodom Sihanouk, who died at the age of 89 on the 15th of October last. His embalmed remains were taken in a golden casket from the royal palace to the crematorium, where it will be incinerated in 3 days' time. A 101 gun salute marked the procession. These are 9 new bells to be fitted at the Notre Dame Cathedral in the French capital. Paris is celebrating Notre Dame's 850th anniversary. Some of the old bells were not in tune because of low-quality metals, which is why they are being replaced. Hundreds lined the streets of the French capital to watch the bells being carried to Notre Dame, where crowds gathered to the ringing of the old bells.
Well, the former king of Cambodia died actually at the age of 89 and not 87 as reported earlier. It's too soon to know who was behind today's suicide attack on the U.S. Embassy in Ankara. It would be recalled that the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya, came under violent attacks last year, leaving 4 people dead, including the ambassador himself. CNN's Barbara Starr explains the threats posed by extremists to the U.S., especially in North Africa.
Of the attack on a gas plant in Algeria, extremists are growing more daring. A senior U.S. intelligence official tells CNN, quote, "What we have seen is intelligence suggesting a desire to carry out more attacks against Western and U.S. interests in the region. Though there are no specific targets yet that the U.S. knows of, one of those plotting, Mukhtar Belmokhtar, was the mastermind of the Algeria attack." But threats are now coming from multiple al-Qaeda groups in Africa.
We're starting to see increasing collaboration, sharing of funding, sharing recruiting efforts, sharing of weapons and explosives, and certainly a sharing of ideology that is expanding and connecting these various organizations.
If Chuck Hagel becomes the next Secretary of Defense, he already knows what he's facing.
I will ensure we stay vigilant and keep up the pressure on terrorist organizations as they try to expand their affiliates around the world in places like Yemen, Somalia, and North Africa.
But when it comes to North Africa, U.S. intelligence agencies may be of limited use to him. That senior U.S. intelligence official tells CNN, quote, "We do not have the level of resources, the footprint, or the capabilities we have in other theaters." After years of focusing on Pakistan and Afghanistan, the map has changed. From Mali to Algeria, Niger, Libya, and Egypt, the Obama administration is struggling to catch up. U.S. intelligence is now working with France, whose own spy networks are more established in the former French colonies in Africa. And the U.S. will set up a drone base in Niger to fly over safe havens, hoping to catch terrorists before there is a direct threat to the U.S. homeland.
I'm not ruling it out. We take al-Qaeda wherever they are very seriously, and we are not going to rest on our laurels until we find that kind of specific and credible information.
But if there is a threat that requires U.S. military force, the options for the president may be very difficult. Al-Qaeda in Africa has no central headquarters, no Osama bin Laden, and potentially thousands of fighters spread out over thousands of miles of remote desert. Barbara Starr, CNN, the Pentagon.
Let's now take a quick look at the weather report, courtesy of the Central Forecast Office.
The source assures us of a continuous flow, and from there, everything follows. And for those of us who know what the River Gambia stands for, understanding its sustainability in all aspects of life is easily confirmed. The River Gambia provides nutritious delicacies as food, while it provides its wildlife a balanced ecosystem. This river, as a sanctuary, is committed to its inhabitants' needs without season. And as you travel along, all these values are replicated in one company, Elton. Just like the River Gambia, leads in its commitment to values that matter most. Elton, championing the vision for a new generation.
Hello there, wonderful viewers. Welcome to the weather segment. We begin with the summary. We experience a warm and hazy atmosphere across the country, and for the forecast tonight, we'll be expecting a relatively warm and hazy conditions to prevail over the entire country onwards morning, whilst the day tomorrow, we expect these hazy conditions to persist during the period. Winds will vary between northeasterlies and easterlies in orientation, and they will both be light to moderate in speed. Morning temperatures will vary between 16 and 18 degrees Celsius, whilst afternoon temperatures will vary between 32 and 38 degrees Celsius. For those going to sea, we will be expecting a low tide of 0.35 meters at 7:49 a.m. and also 0.37 meters at 7:14 p.m. For the high tide, we'll be expecting 1.65 meters at 1:21 a.m. and also 1.5 meters at 1:20